Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. Welcome to our program tonight. We're going to get started right away with the Pledge of Allegiance and the United States National Anthem. Would everybody please rise?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Oh, yeah! Come on, folks, let them know it.
These are the best of the best. The United States Army Barbershop Quartet, coming to us from the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2015. The people that gave us the national anthem, or the Pledge of Allegiance, they were the Barbershop Quartet hosts of the 2015 Barbershop Quartet Convention. We appreciate that very much. God bless our military wherever they might be around the world. They are the best of the best, as well as our allied forces, their militaries from their different countries. God bless you all. May you all return home safely after your tours of duty end. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for your service. Folks, we have a lot I need to talk about. For the past, I want to say at least 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, I've been dealing with the after effects of cancer. The after effects, the medicines, what the medicines cause. And quite frankly, this is not pleasant. I don't want to get into it tonight, but I have a feeling I probably ought to talk about this at some point in time. The after effects of cancer are horrible. It's worse than the disease itself, I think, and quite honestly, dealing with this as I do about every other day is unreal. It's totally unreal. God bless you all for being here tonight. Thank you so much. Folks, I want to first start out this show about talking about something that happened about 4 days ago. 3.5, 4 days ago. That was a Carrington-style solar event that happened on the backside of the sun. A great big huge X-class flare. I'm talking probably an X10 class flare launched off the back of the sun just a few days ago. This X-class flare made it to the Earth in a record 10 to 13 hours, depending on who you talk to. This X-class flare continues to disrupt radio and TV communications around the world. I today did some checking around the various channels we receive here in North Carolina, and they're all affected. Every one of them has interruptions from this solar flare. Imagine if this had been Earth-facing of any kind, Earth-facing. If it had been on the Terminator, when I want to talk about the Terminator of the sun is either side of the sun. If that flare had been at the Terminator, launching directly outside and even off to the side of the Earth, even a deflection off the corner of the magnetosphere may have caused even more problems than we're seeing now. That is the truth, guys. This was a Carrington-style event. It was on the back face of the sun. That's the only reason we know exactly what happened. As you see in the picture on the right, this is a satellite facing the backside of the sun. I wish I could put it into full motion. It was incredible to see. Honestly, it was absolutely incredible to see. A Carrington-style event on the backside of the sun. Now, as we orbit around the sun, that sunspot that lit off that flare will be Earth-facing. It is possible. I don't know how extreme possible it could get, but it is possible that it could also launch out another X-class flare that could do damage here on the Earth and the other planets, the satellites we have in orbit around the Earth, orbit around the Moon, Neptune, Venus, Jupiter, wherever. Mars. These style flares could have and cause a lot of damage to any of our satellites anywhere. So I wanted to talk about that right off the bat. This was and still is a big deal. Now, I'm going to talk about Cascadia tonight, but that is one of the last things I'm going to talk about because we have some volcanoes that we need to worry about. But before we go there, I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about the bank failures that happened last Thursday and Friday. Okay? First off, SVB Bank in California, over in Silicon Valley. It's called the Silicon Valley Bank. It failed. And I'm going to talk about the reason it failed. I'm also going to talk about why the Signature Bank failed. I feel this is an emergency thing. Even though Biden, in his infinite lack of wisdom, okay, could it be lack of wisdom? I don't think so. I also believe he lacks wisdom in anything he does as of late. The man is incompetent because of his age. He's senile. No fault of his own. But I'm not going to talk about politics other than what goes into this bank failure. Okay? I'm going to put this slide into motion here. Okay? The statistics on this illustrates the amount of money that was donated to the United States political parties during the year 2020, during the election cycle 2020, by commercial banks, okay, as of October 16th, 2020, after the information was compiled. Wells Fargo had donated $2.2 million to Democrats. and about $1.23 million to the Republican Party. Half of the money went to the Republicans. The majority of the money went to Democrats. Okay? This is incredible. I'm going to show you the amounts donated to U.S. political parties during the 2020 election cycle here. Look at this. Now, the red is the Republican Party. The blue is the Democrat Party. And it's in thousands of dollars. In thousands of dollars. Millions and millions of dollars donated by commercial banks to the political parties. Who are the banks sponsoring? Who in this statistical graph are the banks sponsoring? Overwhelmingly, the banks are sponsoring the Democrat Communist Party here in America. Okay? Now, why am I talking about this? People might ask, why are you talking about this? Guess who the chairman of the Silicon Valley Bank is? If you answered Vermont Senator Barney Frank, you're right. Or actually, he's not senator, he's a congressman, Barney Frank. He has been in politics all of his life. He's never had a civilian job. Most of his adult life has always been in politics. He doesn't know anything else. Why is he then the chairman of the Silicon Valley Bank? Guess what? He's also an author of a regulation that is supposed to affect banking, to keep the banks honest and also to be able to keep the banks funded and out of trouble. Really? The chairman of the Silicon Valley Bank did not keep the Silicon Valley Bank out of trouble. And guess what? The rest of the committee that chairs the Silicon Bank board, every one of the bank board are elderly females. And I'm not putting down females, but none of them have any banking experience. No one that's on the banking committee for Silicon Valley Bank has any political or banking experience. The only one that has political is Barney Franks. Who are they donated to? The Democrat Communist Party. Okay? The same thing with Signature Bank in New York. This proves it out. Except for the bottom number 4 graph here. Those people gave more money to the Republicans, but the other 3, the majority of the money went to Democrat Communist Party. Okay? Incredible. But I also ran onto a video that you can go to even after this program is finished. Guess what? It's no small wonder that the person that put that video together is none other than Tucker Carlson. I want you to go over to that program after this program is finished and listen to what Tucker Carlson has to say about Silicon Valley Bank, SVB. They had parties. They wanted to make sure that their bank personnel, wherever they might be, they wanted to make sure their personnel could speak of the Democrat Party and the correct pronouns of the various gender groups that the Democrats talk about. Okay? Go over and watch Tucker Carlson's program. It's incredible. The night or day that they held their party to teach people how to speak fluidity of gender basics, they held parties. They held parties wherever those employees were. Incredible. They also at one of the parties that was sponsored by Hollywood showed supposedly banking personnel dancing around, waving their arms to the music, having a wonderful, glorious time. I have never, ever seen any bank throwing a party like that and broadcasting it to the public. Incredible misuse of funds. Incredible Democrats speak to their employees. It's incredible. I have never ever seen this before. I wanted to talk about it tonight because all of this is affecting all of us. Our banks are failing. Every last one of them. Mr. Biden, I can't even call him president, Mr. Joey B. He came out and said, oh, we are going to make sure that these banks are backed up so nobody loses any money. Any depositors will be able to go to those banks and get their money out if they so desire. And this will not affect the U.S. taxpayers. I call BS on it. Because the United States are going to print money to be able to back Joe Biden's statement. That printing of money is going to cost us inflationary dollars. Inflation is going to skyrocket. Then, what's going to happen to us? Our grocery prices are also going to skyrocket. Our money for gas is going to skyrocket. Everything that we buy, all consumables are going to skyrocket. Because Joey Biden decided that he was going to bail out these banks again. Incredible. Incredible. And who else is banking over at SVB? Hollywood. Hollywood. We can prove it. We can prove it. If you go anywhere on the internet, you can see that Hollywood is the one that's funding these banks. It's incredible. It's completely incredible. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but I was agitated. If someone isn't agitated, they ought to be. Okay? Joe Bruno says, I'm with a credit union actually, LOL, so am I good? Yes, you are good. Anybody that has money in any of the major banks, including Chase, you need to get that money out as soon as you possibly can. Because Chase is failing. And at some point in time, it's going to go belly up as well. Chase is teetering on the edge. Anybody that you talk to will tell you that. Get your money out and put it in a credit union. I'm with a credit union. Before the end of this month, I will not have any more banking over at Chase. All my money will be at the credit union. That's a promise. And I hopefully will influence others to do the same. And I hope that you all will do the same too. Now guys, I'm going to try to keep an eye on the chat today. I really am. During my presentation, I have so much to give you, I may not be able to see everything. But I'm going to try to keep a good eye on the chat. Okay? I appreciate all of my mods that are here tonight. Every one of you I totally respect and love. I love all of the EMA family that are here. Please know that. Each and every one of you are awesome. Okay? Kimberly Hopkins says, we're not financial advisors, however. I pulled some of mine out. It's up to you. Yes, it's up to each individual person. But I would rather have my money in a credit union than anywhere else. Yes, you should also have hard cash. Hard cash in your possession in case the time comes when the banks do fail completely. And yes, that time is coming. I promise you that. Make sure you squirrel away some hard cash. Do not have large bills any larger than a 10. If you do, when you try to go to the store to spend it on a $2 or a $5 item, guess what? They're not going to have change for a 20. They may not have change for a 10. Keep your bills in small bills. Yes, you could have some coins in your pocket or in another bag. I would ask you to get one of those gallon-size freezer bags that's Ziploc. Put your cash in there and hide it. Put it in your emergency supply kit or wherever you want to put it. Okay? Some of my friends have said your supply kit, and I back that up for a reason. That way you won't forget it when you have to bug out of your home, wherever you're at. Make sure you have plenty of cash on hand. Don't put all of your money inside any kind of institution. Keep a good chunk of change personally with you. Don't carry it with you. Don't put it in your wallet or your handbag. Somebody will steal that. Yes, you should not carry probably any more than 2 20s or 2 10s in your wallet. Okay? I don't like to carry much money at all if I don't have to. Sometimes you have to carry some kind of small bills with you on your person. Don't carry large amounts of cash on your person ever. I've seen people robbed and killed over a $20 bill. A $20 bill coming out of an ATM. I saw someone shot and killed over a $20 bill. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Wherever you go at night, make sure you're in a well-lit area and make sure there's other people with you that you know. Never approach anywhere without people around you. People that will keep an eye out for you when you're not facing a particular direction. Make sure you have spotters, if you will, with you. It's to your advantage. It's for your safety. Okay? Kimberly Hopkins says, I keep most of it in my safe. I also have a safe here. Okay? I do. She says she didn't have any more than $30 at any given time. That's a good idea. Okay? Melba Hanska says, I'm giving out really great advice right now. Keep it flowing. Oh, I intend on it. I don't ever intend to tell you something that I don't believe in, that I myself won't do. Anyway, I want to tell you about the banking situation because the problems continue. Okay? Chase Bank is only one of them. Wells Fargo is about to go belly up as well. Okay? Keep an eye on your institution until you can get your funds out of those major banks and into a credit union. Okay? That's what I counsel everybody to do. Glenn Beck says the same thing. And other people say the same thing. Good advice. Anyway, let's go to what is going on. Okay? Today I got another notice from the Volcanic Observatory in Alaska. And this is good information. Remember us telling you about Tanaga Volcano over in Alaska last week? The earthquakes underneath Tanaga Volcano were increasing, meaning the possibility of an eruption at Tanaga Volcano in the Aleutian Islands was possible. It still is. However, the earthquakes have decreased. The number of earthquakes happening has decreased, and they have lowered the color code level from orange to yellow. Orange was look out. Orange means look out. It's very possible. Yellow is an advisory color, and that's where it's at. It's advisory now. It's no longer at orange. And there's one other one. It's Tanagawana Volcano, also near there, about 5 miles away. The earthquakes have decreased there as well. So now we feel a little better about the Aleutian Islands. Well, guess what? Old Ililama Volcano in the central peninsula of Alaska is still shaking, which means old Ililama Volcano that has in the past been steaming could also erupt. Last year at this time we're seeing steam at Mount Redoubt, which is just south and west of Anchorage. That was steaming, and it erupted. It erupted. There had been a huge swarm of earthquakes at Mount Redoubt. It had been steaming, and then it erupted. I don't think we're going to have an eruption at Old Ililama. It is possible. Anytime we've seen swarms of earthquakes at a volcano, that's usually what is next. We see steam and swarms of earthquakes at a volcano, and the next thing you know, it does erupt. That happens. Anyway, let's continue here. Okay? I want to talk about a train wreck. Another diesel train had derailed in Washington State. Yeah, in Washington this time. Okay? It never fails. It never fails. This Burlington Northern Santa Fe train derailed in a place called Anacortes. Anacortes, over here in Washington State. It was near the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Okay, the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Where do we know that from? We've been looking at earthquakes all over the Pacific Northwest and southwestern Canada. There's a reason. Okay? We've been looking at the Cascadia megathrust earthquake happening. It still can happen. We still get earthquakes there. But, yes, there have been earthquakes at Anacortes today. We can talk about that too in just a second. But there had been another train derailment at Anacortes today. Wouldn't you know? Wouldn't you know? Right here, okay? Right here, you see one of two engines on their side. One of two engines on their side. Two engines derailed, guys. Two locomotives derailed here in Washington State. Nobody realized what was going to happen till it happened. Okay? Now, Burlington Northern Santa Fe and Washington State ecology people were out at this train wreck. Why? Because it just derailed just short of a major waterway. A major waterway over at Anacortes, Washington today. Okay? But two engines were on their side. It takes tremendous effort to right these locomotives. They're like 60,000 pounds of steel. 60,000 pounds of generators. Okay? These locomotives are nothing but power plants. Okay? They have great big huge generators on board these locomotives to provide electricity and to provide power to these locomotives to pull long trains. Long trains. And when you have 2 or 3 generators of that size on just one locomotive, that's a lot of weight. As you can see here, they have 4 cranes uprighting just this locomotive. Okay? But 2 locomotives went on their side there. I was flabbergasted by what I saw. Now let me show you something else. See where these locomotives derailed? Just prior to they were going to go over a bridge spanning this waterway near Anacortes. Okay? Near Anacortes. The derailment happened shortly after midnight on the Swinomish Reservation near the Swinomish Casino and Lodge on Fidalgo Island. The Burlington Northern train was traveling east when 2 engines left the track before reaching the bridge that crosses the Swinomish Channel. That's according to the Swinomish Police Chief Earl Cohen. 2 Burlington Northern Santa Fe workers were involved. The Washington Department of Ecology said in a tweet that 5,000 gallons of diesel spilled on a berm, and most of it leaked on the land side of the train tracks, not anywhere close to the water channel. However, a statement from Burlington Northern Santa Fe spokesman said only minimal diesel was spilled. 5,000 gallons is a lot more than minimal. Okay? Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway can confirm that 2 locomotives derailed near Anacortes, Washington today at approximately midnight this morning. There were no injuries as a result of the derailment. Preliminary reports indicate a minimal amount of diesel fuel from the locomotives has leaked. Burlington Northern Santa Fe already has personnel out there working with local authorities at the scene, and the cause of the incident is under investigation. But again, no one was hurt. At about 11 a.m. Pacific time this morning, the Washington Department of Ecology said it did not appear that water or wildlife were affected by the spill, and that the shoreline had been lined with booms to contain possible pollution had it reached the water. The fuel that remained in the 2 derailed engines has been pumped out, and 4 tank cars that stayed upright have been removed from the scene. Cranes like you see here have been working to upright those engines. Okay? Unreal. Now, when else has this happened? There's been other derailments there in Washington State as well. For example, approximately 2 years ago, 2020-2021 time period, 7 train cars carrying crude oil derailed and caught fire in Custer, Washington. 7 train caught fire on December 22nd, 2020, sending a large plume of black smoke into the sky close to the Canadian border. There were no injuries in that derailment about 100 miles north of Seattle. KUOW reported that an official with the union representing the driver has told authorities that the derailment was not an accident. That particular derailment was not an accident. We know from the FBI investigation about how trains operate, how trains work, how the computers and couplers work, how the pin lifters work, that this incident was caused, without a doubt, by sabotage. We talked about sabotage over at East Palestine, Ohio, didn't we? It's continuing. It's continuing. This was one of the first incidents of sabotage on the railway. It wasn't the first, but was one of the first. Okay? We have the FBI, the Washington Bureau of Investigation. We have local police up there that have been investigating it, and Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway investigators also have been there. And there was a court hearing transcript that was obtained by the radio station. The incident happened near where two people had been arrested a month before and accused with attempting a terrorist attack on train tracks to disrupt plans for a national gas pipeline. That area is home to 5 oil refineries. Washington state sees millions of gallons of crude oil moved by rail through the state each week, mostly coming from North Dakota, along with some from Alberta and Saskatchewan in Canada. The oil train derailment of 30 February, which 150-car freightliner carrying toxic chemicals crashed off the tracks in the town of East Palestine, is just one more than a dozen rail accidents reported to have already taken place in the United States since the start of 2023. With another derailment having taken place on January 19th between Trinway and Adams Mill, Ohio, it was one more. On February 13th, Newsweek counted no fewer than 3 further derailments in South Carolina alone already this year. Near Lake City on 9 January, near Loris, South Carolina on January 21st, and another one near Honore on February 12th, as well as 2 in California, and 2 more in Texas, and another in Detroit, just outside of Detroit, and 1 in metropolitan Philadelphia, and others in Alabama, Alaska, Louisiana. A Union Pacific freight train has since derailed in Gothenburg, Nebraska on 21 February. An accident followed 3 in the same area involving coal trains in 2022 last year. It was the East Palestine incident that cast new light on America's underreported railroad sector, and it challenges what it faces, inspiring a media storm, and competing visits from first Donald Trump and then Secretary of Transportation Peter Buttigieg, as Norfolk Southern and the federal government were bombarded with criticism concerning the cleanup. The Bureau of Transportation Statistics records 54,539 train derailments between 1990 and 2021. That's an average of 1,704 per year. In one of our emergency management groups on Messenger, I incorrectly stated it was about 1,700 a month. No, it's 1,700 a year. But with all the derailments happening now, I'm sure we're well past 20 now. Just this month. Just in the past 30 days. It's crazy. Now, while that might sound like a lot, the fatality rate from such incidents is still low, averaging just 4 deaths per year over the same period. Now, that doesn't end today. Okay? Guess what else happened today? Another train derailed in Arizona. Yeah, another train derailed in Arizona. Incredible. I was blown away when I heard about this. Okay, and I want to pass it on to you. A train derailed carrying corn syrup last night in western Arizona. The county sheriff's office said that there were no injuries and it was not made aware of any spills or leaks. The train, operated by, again, Burlington Northern Santa Fe, derailed yesterday evening about 7:40 p.m. in Mojave County, Arizona, near the California border. The cause of the incident is still under investigation. Okay? A sheriff's spokesman said the office had unconfirmed reports that the train was also carrying hazardous material, but Burlington Northern Santa Fe said no such materials were involved in the derailment. Whether they were on the train or not, no cars were involved in the derailment that had been carrying hazardous materials. There were no injuries as a result of that derailment, and preliminary reports indicate there are no hazardous materials involved. Okay? Now, we spoke with Lena Kent, who's the spokesman for Burlington Northern Santa Fe. So we have it on pretty good authority. But we are going to keep our ear to the ground and see if anything else comes up. I don't believe that every one of these derailments is accidental. I just don't believe it. Okay? It's crazy. Don Patoka, who's one of my mods, is telling Richard Smith, he says, I already did a background check on you. You're good to go. LOL. Yeah, I don't think any of my mods, and I don't do background checks on anybody that's here. Okay? The only people I do background checks are people that are very close to me. Okay? I don't want to get shot or killed. Okay? That's the only reason I do that. Okay? Now, only 8 cars there in Arizona derailed, and they're blocking the main track. Okay? And it's still unclear when that track will reopen. And that's as of this morning. The derailment occurred parallel to Interstate 40. If any of you have been on Interstate 40 as I have, the rail line goes forever right beside the roadway. Okay? The only things on Interstate 40 are it's a major thoroughfare, two lanes going in each direction there, and it's not a populated area. Most of it is truck stops, gas stations, and places like that, and an occasional restaurant. Okay? A spokesman named Anita Mortensen said that the sheriff's office is on duty here, and they're keeping a good eye on the situation. The National Transportation Safety Board is aware of the derailment and is also collecting information, but it has not launched an investigation as of this morning. This incident follows a string of high-profile train derailments. This time, multiple train derailments of Burlington Northern Santa Fe, Norfolk Southern, and Union Pacific. Okay? Again, we talked about the February 3rd derailment in East Palestine of Norfolk Southern carrying toxic chemicals that derailed. And we spoke exactly about what happened. Okay? Now, a month later, another Norfolk Southern derailed in Ohio. This time, no toxic chemicals were on board that train. On March 9th, a rock slide caused an empty coal train to derail in West Virginia. We talked about that too. Okay? That one injured 3 crew members, and they spilt diesel fuel and oil into a nearby waterway because it happened right on a bridge, and that we reported on as well. Now, I want to talk about something that's maybe just a little more pleasant. Okay? Heavy snow in California. How many of us know that there was heavy snow in California? How many of us have heard about it? How many of us have heard that not just heavy snow, but rain? We're going to be talking about both right now. Let's go over to a reporter there in California.
Californians are bracing for yet another round of severe weather. Intense downpours could lead to life-threatening flooding across that state, and mountain communities are clearing away feet of snow. It left many trapped in their homes for nearly 2 weeks. So far, 12 people have died, but right now only one of them has been confirmed as weather-related. Andy Ramos with our Los Angeles affiliate has more.
Nicole, we're in Crestline here in the San Bernardino Mountain communities where folks are still snowed in 2 weeks after this unprecedented storm. Now, behind me, you can see volunteers drove all the way from Utah. They're digging folks out of their front door and their cars out of multiple feet of snow. I want to bring in Diesel Dave because you can...
Okay, I'm going to stop it real quick and then we'll continue. Diesel Dave has a business in Utah. Okay, he runs heavy equipment. He also has a YouTube channel. You can find out Diesel Dave by just Googling him, or whatever platform you use to check information. Go on YouTube and put in Diesel Dave, and he has videos all over the place about his work. He's very famous. He's got million people following him in his subscriber base. I can only hope that I could get that many followers here. But this man does a great work, and here he is bringing all his people and some equipment that he owns all the way to San Bernardino Mountains in California.
Came from Utah with your group. What are you guys doing?
We're just here clearing snow. We're from the land of snow, and we saw a cry for help of people stuck in their houses, and we said, let's go play in the snow. Let's bring our big toys, our equipment, our snow removal stuff, and get some people out of their houses.
And I know you have responded to multiple people, multiple homes who were trapped inside. It is week 2 for them. They haven't been outside in 12, 13, 14 days. What are you finding? What are the conditions that you've been finding them in?
You know, every time I find someone, they're concerned more about someone else. The community here is awesome. We dug a lady named Sharon out. She's like, hey, my friend Scott's stuck in his house over on Bernard, get over there. And now we're here digging them out. It's like every time we find someone, they're thankful to be dug out, but it's like, go find my friend.
For folks who don't understand exactly the circumstances that people are in, because we're hearing from officials that 90% of the roads are plowed, which is good news, welcome news. But that doesn't necessarily mean that folks in their homes are able to get out. Explain that a little bit.
So a lot of the main roads are clear, but if you can see how deep that car is in the snow, no one can drive their car out on this road. We cleared this road, and the main road's clear, but if you can't get out of your driveway, you're still not going anywhere.
And you're not just clearing the driveway in this car, you're also clearing their front door and the steps to get to the driveway, right?
Got to have a pathway to get to your car, and you got to be able to get your car to the road, so that's what we're doing.
Awesome, and I know you're working your way up the mountain, so I'll let you back to it because I know folks are eager to get out of their homes. You can see right here, they're also moving the snow away from the driveway so that they can actually get this car out and down the mountain in order to get some food and other necessities that we know folks who have been trapped inside their home for 2 weeks so desperately need. Reporting from Crestline, Annie Rose Ramos, I'll send it back to you. Nicole?
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that people as far away as Utah have come to help the citizens of California dig out? And it's not just in the San Bernardino Mountains either. I just saw a report today. In Lake Tahoe area, they have 53 feet of snow. Lake Tahoe has 53 feet of snow. Incredible snowfall, and it's continuing today. More rain and snow are on the way. There's a huge Pineapple Express coming down out of the Pacific. There's more snow and rain coming out of Alaska as well. Nobody can get over this. Washington, Oregon, and California have been pelted with weather, and it's not over. It's literally not over. Okay? I have seen all sorts of mayhem, literally mayhem, from what has been going on. Okay? It's incredible. Okay, I'm sorry, that's not the one I want to show you. There's one picture I want to show you here. Hold on a second. I thought I had this all lined up for you. Here we go. Let me blow this up a little more. This, folks, is a huge cliff. I believe this one is in Los Angeles area. Okay? They have huge bluffs all over California, Oregon, and Washington. And when these bluffs get saturated, they collapse. They collapse. Look at that bunch of bush and green foliage on the top of this cliff. As soon as that water. That rain gets into the roots, gets into the dirt above that cliff. It gets in there and it collapses those areas. That's what happened here. That's what happened over at Black's Beach just a couple weeks ago. You saw the cliff collapse evident on the beach where those people last week that we reported on that came in from Mexico lost their lives off the coast of Black's Beach. Okay? We showed you part of the cliff that had collapsed there. All those people that were from various countries trying to get into the United States, past the border guards, past the fences, 8 of them at least lost their lives, and there may be even more. We still don't know exactly how many people lost their lives last week off of Black's Beach in San Diego. Okay? Terrible storms, high waves, and visibility that's almost non-existent. Heavy fog. It's crazy, but it's continuing. My friends at KFMB in San Diego, TV and radio, have been talking to me. It's non-stop. They may have a stop to it, and then it starts again. That's the way it's been all season long. Okay? This kind of thing is very serious. If I have one set of words or phrases that I could tell you about if you're in California, in Los Angeles area, I don't care whether it's right in near the beach or not. Stay away from cliffs. Stay off the beach near the cliffs. You can go to the water. I'm not saying not to, but stay away from the immediate cliffs. Completely away. Do not set up camp to play at the beach directly below the cliff. Stay back away from it, closer to the water. Please do that. You never know when one of these cliffs is going to collapse. I've seen it happen when I was in San Diego, and we just saw it happen 2 weeks ago in San Diego at Black's Beach. Fortunately, nobody was killed in that cliff collapse, but it could have been. If that cliff had collapsed during daylight hours, that whole beach would have been packed with people. It was at Black's Beach. It's a clothing optional beach, but there are still a lot of people that camp out there during the day to get sun and play in the water. Please stay away from cliffs. Stay back away from the bluffs. It's not good. If you're at the top of the bluffs, stay back away from the edge. Don't even play near it. If you're on top of the bluff and it collapses, you're a goner. You probably will die. Stay back away from it. Okay? I've seen it, guys. I've seen it. I used to play at the beach in La Jolla. I used to play up and down the beach from way back down in southern San Diego County. I'm not going to even name the towns I played at. Up and down the entire coastline I played. Encinitas was one of my favorite places, and it had tons of cliffs around it. Please be careful. Watch what you're doing. Watch what you're doing, whatever it takes. Okay? Be aware. It's downhill if you're at the top of that cliff, and it's downhill at the bottom of it. Stay away from it. Okay? California's moving at the beaches. Plain and simple. I'm just trying to give you a heads up about it. That's all. Okay? I don't want to see anybody killed as a result of that. And yes, every year there's somebody that's killed, buried by these cliffs collapsing. Stay back away from it. Please. Don't get any closer to it than you have to. Okay? Now, we talked about rain. Okay? This is just a funny picture that I found earlier today. Thanks for the rain, but we're good now. Guess what? More rain's coming. More rain's coming. You can count on it. You can count on it. but take care of yourselves. Stay out of flooded areas. Do not drive over a flooded roadway. Do not cross a flooded bridge. If that bridge is flooded, guess what? There's water flowing underneath it, probably at a very rapid rate, and that bridge could collapse, and I've seen that happen too. Bridges collapse all the time during heavy rains. Stay off of bridges that are covered with water. Do not drive through a road that's covered in water. 12 inches of water will take your car down the road. A little less than that will take you off your feet, and you'll die. You'll drown in that water. Stay out of flooded areas at all costs. Please. I'm giving you advice because I have been there. I rescued a woman out of a building in downtown San Diego one year. I don't remember what it was. It was during the 90s. There was a huge squall that came into San Diego. Okay? It wasn't a hurricane, but it was a tropical storm off the Pacific. And it came in. I was helping pull people out off the water in the harbor. I had a heavy-duty rope tied to the back of my police duty belt. I had the other end of that rope hooked to my police car, and my partner was holding on to the strength of the rope to pull me back as I was pulling people out of the harbor that had gotten their boats slammed into the concrete quay wall, and their boats were breaking up. Some people were being thrown, their boats were being thrown into pilings at the piers, and the boats were breaking up there. They were fighting to stay alive. Okay? Don't go out onto the waters during a storm or even before a storm. They issue small craft advisories on rivers, on streams, on oceans, on harbors. There's a reason for it. You get involved in those storms and you will die. We've seen it happen over and over. In downtown San Diego, water was about 3 feet deep. Again, my partner lashed me to the patrol car. I went into the building, got the woman, tied her to me, and my partner drug us out through the water to safety. I could not have done it by myself. If my partner had not been pulling the patrol car back, guess what? I'd been dead. That woman had been dead too. 3 feet of water on a downtown street is bad. It's worse when somebody wants to get out and is trapped in a building. Don't do it. Stay away. It's not worth your life. I promise you, it's not worth your life. Okay? I'm just telling you. Again, I told you about Anacortes and the train derailment. Guess what? There were some minor tremors there today. Minor tremors at Anacortes, Washington. Just 1.9s. Those people got lucky. Those people got very lucky. Those are just tremors. Tremors. The largest earthquake that's happened anywhere near there as of late has been a 2.7 earthquake. 2.7 minor earthquake. They're lucky, because guess what? We are expecting larger earthquakes any day. Any day. And we're going to talk more about that in a few minutes. But first, I want to talk about the storms. I want to talk about the storms that have been passing through the United States and even around the world. Okay? That's what I want to go to right now. Folks, we have had storm after storm after storm blow through the United States. It's not funny anymore. It's not funny at all. Okay? Back in 1993, it was called the storm of the century. It came out of the Gulf of California. It went up the east coast of the United States, and you can see it in this diagram here. This is a radar image of that storm. Look at the top of this slide. The orange and red areas are particularly dangerous. Okay? We're talking about lightning. We're talking about tornadoes. Yes, snow-nados. Snow-nados. That happens. We've had snow lightning and thunder. That happens. It's happened a lot. The storm of the century hit the East Coast. And it wasn't just the East Coast that was affected. Okay? Look at this. Just like we've seen in California, like we've seen in Utah, and all over the world. This was happening here where I live. Where I live in 1993. The storm of the century. Okay? 7 to 10 feet of snow. 7 to 10 feet of snow. Okay? No joke. Storm after storm, and it ended up affecting the entire country. No joke. It's been 30 years since this storm of the century dropped huge amounts of snow across North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and some parts of Florida, and entirely the East Coast seaboard. The entire eastern seaboard of the United States, and it went up into Canada. This week marks the 30th anniversary of the blizzard of 1993, also known, as I said, the storm of the century. The storm dropped snow as far south as parts of Louisiana and Mississippi, and as far north as Maine and Canada. And it also brought heavy rain and hail to Texas, as well as tornadoes and flooding to areas in Florida. The storm formed in the Gulf of Mexico and began impacting Texas on March 12th. As the storm raced eastward, a line of severe thunderstorms developed and extended south into Florida during the early morning hours of March 13th, damaging straight-line winds. And folks, I have been in areas with straight-line winds, winds that run parallel to the ground, 40 and 50 mile per hour straight-line winds, and even higher in Colorado, where I used to live. Carolyn Martin, who I saw here in the chat room a little bit ago, she's seen it. She's been through it. She lived there. Carolyn Martin's a good friend of mine. Okay? She lived it. Damaging straight-line winds and 11 confirmed tornadoes were reported across Florida, with substantial thunderstorms, wind damage occurring even further south into Cuba. Strong onshore winds along Florida's west coast created a storm surge of up to 12 feet. A storm surge of up to 12 feet, leading to significant damage to property and up to 7 fatalities reported. The storm system then continued its trek towards the east coast, where it encountered cold air, resulting in widespread heavy snow and blizzard conditions from Alabama and Georgia into the western Carolinas and Virginia. All-time record levels for snow were set in locations from Birmingham, Alabama, and Chattanooga to Asheville, North Carolina, which is just southwest of me. Asheville, North Carolina. It happened here as well, exactly here in Morganton, North Carolina as well. Then it spread north into the central Appalachians. By the afternoon of March 13th, the central pressure of the low was lower than had ever been observed in any historic winter storm or a hurricane across the interior southeastern United States. It was an interior land-based hurricane. An interior land-based hurricane in the southeastern United States. All-time record low pressure records were set in Columbia, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Greensboro, even beating out the pressures observed just a few years ago during Hurricane Hugo in September 1989. Snow reports from the blizzard of 1993. In the mid to late afternoon hours of March 13th, cold air infiltrated the storm as a low pressure system moved north through Raleigh, North Carolina, and into northeastern North Carolina. East of Interstate 95, snow only amounted to a trace, but significant heavier amounts of snow fell across western Carolinas. Boone, which is just west of Charlotte, and Banner Elk, those towns are on the foothills of the Eastern Continental Divide. They're just north of me. Boone and Banner Elk, North Carolina, reported 30 inches of snow from the storm, while Blowing Rock is one of the places we reported on that's just north of me. Blowing Rock, North Carolina's had earthquakes. We've talked about it. Blowing Rock estimated 3 feet of snow had fallen there. Nearly all of Ashe County, where Asheville, North Carolina is, had at least 2 feet. They had at least 2 feet of snow on the ground, particularly in areas around Jefferson, North Carolina, even over to Glendale Springs and Laurel Springs. Laurel Springs is a wonderful area, guys. It's absolutely beautiful. Laurel Springs reported 24 inches of snow there on March 13th, 1993. Record-setting snowfall amounts were recorded on the higher elevations, okay, up on the Continental Divide. According to the National Weather Service, 36 inches of snow fell in a 24-hour period at Mount Mitchell. Mount Mitchell is one of the highest mountains here in North Carolina, which stands at a statewide record of most snow in a 24-hour period. Overall, Mount Mitchell reported 50 inches of snow from that storm. I just got through telling you Lake Tahoe is reporting 53 feet of snow. 50 inches is nothing compared to 53 feet. Mount Mitchell here in North Carolina reported 50 inches of snow from that storm, and that's another state record that still stands today. Now, Beech Mountain. Beech Mountain is a ski resort here in North Carolina. They reported a record 41 inches of snow during that storm. At the Asheville Regional Airport, like I said, which is south and west from me, about 70 miles south and west of me, 18 inches of snow fell there in a 48-hour period, something that had never happened before and has not happened since. Now, I'm going to talk to you about what they call the Piedmont Triad International Airport. Okay? That is over at Greensboro, North Carolina. 5.7 inches of snow in Greensboro at the airport. Around 10 inches of snow fell in Hickory, which is just 17 miles from here. Okay? 10 inches of snow fell in Hickory. It fell here too. In Chatham County, Siler City, which is south of me, they received 1.5 inches of snow, and even Raleigh, over near Charlotte, picked up another inch of snow there. The highest snowfall amounts recorded in the southeast occurred at Mount LeConte, just across the North Carolina border into Tennessee. Snow totals reached 60 inches, with Mount LeConte reaching a peak of 6,593 feet high. 60 inches of snow there. A trace of snow was recorded in Augusta, Georgia, Florence, South Carolina, and Wilmington, North Carolina. A trace of snow was recorded as far south as Tallahassee, Jacksonville, and Fernandina Beach, Florida. Okay? Let's talk about winds. Not only did North Carolina receive several inches of snow, But the Tar Heel State saw strong winds. Gusts up to, get this guys, gusts up to 100 miles per hour were recorded in Boone, North Carolina, which is directly west of Charlotte, in the foothills, with stronger gusts recorded at the higher elevations like Grandfather Mountain, which is just barely like 5 miles west of me. Grandfather Mountain. Stronger gusts. Beach Mountain, which is a ski resort, and Sugar Mountain. The strong winds created snowdrifts as high as 14 feet high on Mount Mitchell. Across the eastern Carolinas, strong winds were the largest impact from the storm. Frying Pan Tower recorded a peak wind of 93 miles per hour. Wilmington, North Carolina saw gusts reach 70 miles per hour. Raleigh reported a wind gust of 41 miles per hour. That was along the coast, near the coast. The winds created very large wind waves offshore and damaging storm surge from the south-facing beaches. In Oak Island, at least 18 homes were destroyed by the storm surge and beach erosion. Hundreds of homes were similarly destroyed or damaged in the Outer Banks, which are the islands that are just offshore. The 1993 superstorm directly affected 40% of the population of the United States. 40% of the population of the United States was affected by that storm. Upwards of 10 million customers had lost power due to that storm. The storm resulted in a total of 208 deaths in 13 states, caused $5.5 billion in damages. Every major airport on the East Coast was closed at one point in time by the storm. The volume of water dropped by the storm was 44 million acre feet. 44 million acre feet, or 44 million hectare. Hectare is like an acre, okay? Which is enough water to flood 44 million acres of land. 44 million hectares of land, 1 foot deep. Can you imagine 44 million acres of land, 1 foot deep, 12 inches? The storm was classified as a Category 5 extreme hurricane storm on shore, on land, on the Northeast Snowfall Impact Scale. They call it the NESIS. It's a rating system. The NESIS was developed by Paul Coslin and Louis Uccellini, an Italian, of the National Weather Service, and characterizes and ranks high-impact northeast snowstorms. The storm of the century is ranked as number 1 in that list, well ahead of the second place January 6th to January 8th blizzard in 1996. Guess what? We have not had 1 inch of snow where I live yet. Last year at this time, we still had 18 inches of snow on the ground. It had not melted. It didn't start melting until the end of March. We had 18 inches last year. This year, we haven't seen 1 single inch. Charlotte, North Carolina was supposed to get a dusting this past weekend out of the storm that just hit us. They didn't get any snow at all. We have had heavy rain. Starting tonight, we're supposed to get more heavy rain. That's why I'm talking about it. Why are we getting heavy rain tonight? Because, folks, you guys out west have seen snow and heavy rain. It's coming east. All of that weather is coming from the west, headed east. Okay? We're getting it. This weekend it's going to be cold again. For the past 4 nights, it's been 24 degrees at night. 24 degrees at night. Cold. Below freezing area. Okay? Below the freezing area. Okay? That's cold. That's really cold. That's 0 degrees Celsius. Okay? That's really cold. We had it. We've had some winds as well. Yesterday morning, I walked out of the house to go check the post office because I was expecting a bank card at the post office. Guess what? It was bitter cold. We had 20-mile-per-hour gusts and it was cold. I stopped at Walmart to pick up some butter because I needed butter. Guess what? Just getting out of the car, 20-mile-per-hour gusts, it was bitter cold. If it had been raining, as it is going to do tonight, and we had storm clouds before I started this show tonight, if we had those storms that are coming in now, we would have gotten snow. But so far, we've not been blessed with any this year. With that said, watch it happen now. Temperatures are only supposed to be as high as 40 degrees on Sunday. Okay? Tomorrow, 53. Saturday, 48 to 50. And Sunday, it's not supposed to get past 40 degrees and rain. Okay? That's what's happening. That's what's supposed to be happening this weekend. Okay? Now, I've talked about everything but the volcanoes in the Pacific Northwest. Let's go now to the Pacific Northwest. Okay? I want to show you what exactly is happening. Okay? I think this is probably as important as anything we can talk about tonight. Okay? What is going on? Okay, we haven't talked about anything to do much with the Pacific Northwest since this past Monday. Mondays and Thursdays are supposed to be Cascadia nights. Yet we've had all this other stuff to talk about. I think everything that we've talked about is very important because all of this is affecting everybody. It's not just affecting me, it's not just affecting you, it's affecting everybody. Okay? Kimberly Hopkins is saying in the chat that the devastation from that storm was insane. I can only imagine because I've seen storms in Fargo, North Dakota. We had blizzards there. I had an Air Force parka. I had 3 layers of clothes on, and I was still out there snow blowing people out so they could get back into their driveways and not park their cars on already a snow-clogged street to have an accident with. I made sure that our driveways and the churches down the street from us was plowed out, that people could get in there and at least be able to go home. That was what I did. I was just a teenager. I was just a dumb teenager. Out in 50, 60 mile per hour winds and blowing blizzard snow. We had a snowdrift in front of our house in Fargo. It was 4.5 feet deep. 4.5 feet deep. Incredible snow. Incredible snow. We had snow at the roof of our back of our house. We had cross-country skis. My parents got us. And I cross-country skied off the roof of my house to my high school just about 4 blocks away. Okay, that's how deep the snow was. It was incredible. Wind and snow in North Dakota. Wind and snow in Colorado. Twice in Colorado. Once around Christmas and once in March. I believe it was March 9th. We had a blizzard to beat all blizzards that year. I think it was more 2003. The winter of 2003. Terrible blizzard. 3 days we had snow 6 feet high in my front yard. I had to dig my truck out. Incredible. Okay? Hurricane Heather says, you couldn't pay me to go to that kind of cold and snow. Guess what? I did it. I did it. I'm a stronger person today as a result of it. But I wouldn't do that today. No frickin' way. I have enough problems without having that snow and everything else. Cold affects me differently than it did back then. It was bad back then, but now it's worse. Now it's far worse. Anyway, I want to talk about Cascadia now, okay? Let's go up near the border of Canada. This is Mount Baker in Washington State. Volcano Baker, or Baker Volcano in Washington State. I want to blow this up a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, this is Schuchsen. This is a ski resort at Mount Baker. Okay, this is also the seismogram that shows us what is going on inside the volcano. The wavy lines you see here at the bottom, not the ones at the top, I'll explain the ones at the top in a minute. The wavy lines you see at the bottom here, that is magma coming into the volcano. All this is magma coming into the volcano, and you can see where the heaviest part of the magma is coming in, where the most magma is coming into that volcano, and it caused earthquakes at Mount Baker. The heavy pressure of the hot magma, the superheated magma coming into the volcano, caused earthquakes. And you can see the wavy lines here. Those are called very low frequency lines. Very low frequency radio waves caused by the magma entering the volcano. Up here at the top, look at the time that this happened. This is Pacific time last night. This time right here, okay, you can see that it basically started at about 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon, Pacific time. What else happened then? Remember that 7.0 magnitude earthquake that happened down in the Kermadec Islands, north of New Zealand? 7.0 magnitude quake. Mary Greeley talked about it today. She had some of her facts wrong, but she talked about it. Yes, a 7.0 earthquake happened in the Kermadec Islands last night. This earthquake was recorded by seismographs all over the world. That earthquake was indeed at least a 7.0, and I'm going to say probably a 7.5. Larger than they said it was, of course, because they'll never tell us the truth. Mary Greeley said it could have caused damage and everything else, but nobody had any records of damage, but it could have caused anybody in the area damage. Mary Greeley, if you're watching this program, believe you me, we would have been on the air still. We were on the air when it happened. We reported it. One of our people in chat reported it happening before we got off the air. Well, guess what? As I've reported before about earthquakes in the Kermadec Islands, nobody lives there. As Mary Greeley reported, one of those islands, the only way you can get to them is during calm seas. During calm seas. That's why nobody lives there. It's a bird sanctuary. All the islands over in the Kermadec Islands are a bird sanctuary. No one is there. Nobody felt that quake. Anybody that was on the North Island of New Zealand, they may have felt some movement under their feet. The Kermadec Islands are hundreds of miles away from North Island, New Zealand. There were 3s, there were a few 4s on the north, around the North Island of New Zealand. The White Volcano over in the Bay of Plenty in New Zealand, they've had some 2s and 3s. White Island also has a volcano that is steaming. It is steaming. It hasn't put out any lava at all, but it has put out a lot of steam. You remember just a couple years ago that volcano erupted when a bunch of tourists were on the island. Tourists from a tourist ship in the area. Some of those people were killed, including Americans. Some of those people from Australia and America were killed and received tremendous burns, over 30 to 40% of their bodies, from that eruptive blast out of that volcano in the Bay of Plenty in New Zealand. It's steaming again. Nobody is there. By law, nobody is allowed on that island in the Bay of Plenty. But New Zealand has been seeing 2s and 3s. I don't think I've seen any 1s on New Zealand yet. It's been 2s and 3s, and yes, some 4s. 4s being moderate earthquakes, 3s being small earthquakes hitting New Zealand. Kermadec Islands had a 7.0, and you can see the earthquake being recorded here at Mount Baker last night. Okay? Mount Baker last night. And this isn't the only one. Let me go over to the other main seismogram at Mount Baker. Well, before I do that, let's show you the other seismogram that I have to show you from Schuchsen. Okay, this is a ski resort. Again, look at the earthquakes that occurred as a result of the magma. As a result of the magma early this morning. Early this morning. Magma coming into a volcano under pressure, hitting the rocks inside the volcano, fracturing the rock, causing earth movement. That's why we get earthquakes at volcanoes. It fractures the rock inside the volcano, causing earth movement. And usually it's volcanic uplift, raising the volcano up. Magma pushing through the upper magma chamber, hitting that huge piece of lava that's the plug of the volcano. At some point, with that magma coming up from underneath the volcano, it's going to pop. That's when that volcano will erupt, with lava coming out of it. Here, you're seeing the magma playing an important part, showing you the earthquakes here as well. All that heavy-duty magma action early this morning is the key to this. That's why they had the earthquakes. That's why they had the earthquakes. Let me show you the main seismogram from Mount Baker. Okay, look at this seismogram. Okay, it didn't show hardly any activity yesterday when the earthquake happened in the Kermadec Islands, which means that this seismogram is no good. If any part of the seismogram is false, which this is, because it doesn't show the Kermadec quake, this seismogram is lying to us. They have scrubbed the Kermadec quake from this seismogram. This is the intent of the agency to deceive the public. We've talked about this before. You can see down here early this morning the magma causing the earthquakes. Causing the earthquakes. Over on this red line here, okay? This is just 8:15, just after 8:15. It's about 8:03. Okay, this is like a 2.8 magnitude earthquake here on this red line. Okay, this is about 8:18 this morning. On the line above it, this is a 7:30 line. We go over to the middle, this makes it 7:40. This is 7:40 this morning. This looks to be a 2.5. 2.3, 2.5 quake, and there's two of them. The second one is probably 2.0. 2.5 and 2.0 magnitude quakes. Then we had the larger quake, the 2.8 at 8:18 this morning. Okay? And you saw by that other seismogram, and I wanted to report it this way so you'll see the evidence of what the magma coming into the volcano will do, causing earthquakes and tremors at these volcanoes. Okay, that was Mount Baker. Let me show you something else. I couldn't show you the seismogram from Glacier Peak, which is south of Mount Baker. I didn't pull up the Mount Constitution because Mount Constitution reflects what happens at Mount Baker. Mount Constitution was equally busy as Mount Baker was. Okay? So we're going to go down to Mount Rainier right now. Okay, I want to show you what's going on at Mount Rainier. Okay, I want to show you first Camp Sherman. Okay, this is the USGS seismogram. USGS allegedly gets their information from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. Okay, but if you go over the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, it shows you something completely different than what the USGS does. So it's obviously a different seismogram. Okay, up at the top you see earthquakes and tremors right off the bat. Right off the bat. Over on this lighter blue line, that's a vertical line here. This happened at 22:45 hours, which is 10:45 p.m. last night. Okay, this is at least a 2.0 earthquake. At least a 2.0 earthquake. I go over to the right near the top of this seismogram. This is a magma churn signal. A magma churn signal is generated by heated magma inside the volcano. Each line of the magma churn signal should represent 23 to 24 lines, normally. If it doesn't, that means that the seismograph has been turned down a certain percentage. In this case, this magma churn signal is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines high here. Usually down here we'll see another magma churn signal, and we do. Again, this magma churn signal is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. Okay, 7 lines is about 26% of real world. 26% of real world. That means these vertical lines should be 3 times as large. At least 3 times as large. Okay, let's go back here to this vertical line at the top left. Okay, I said it was about a 2.0, maybe even 2.2 earthquake right here, right now. Imagine that line 3 times as high. That would make this at least a 4.0 moderate earthquake at Mount Rainier. A 4.0 earthquake at Mount Rainier. Now, if you go over to the USGS map, they don't show anything going on at Mount Rainier. Not a dad-blame thing. Nothing. The other vertical lines you see, if they have a dot in the middle, if they're small, they're minor tremors. If they're larger, they are earthquakes, at least minor earthquakes. If they're larger than about an inch long, vertically, that is a 2.0 earthquake at least. We tack 3 times onto that, all of a sudden we have a 4.0 earthquake. Okay, and we can see them here. Let's further go down this seismogram. Okay, this earthquake that you see over here in the center right. Okay, this is after 7:30 in the morning. Actually, it's about 7:45 this morning. Okay, this looks and appears to be a 2.3 earthquake. Multiply that times 3. Okay, now we have a 4.5 earthquake. Yes, folks, seismic energy is real. It is happening, regardless of whether the agency is telling us about it or not. They turn down the seismographs, so we don't know exactly what's going on unless we've been educated to figure it out. And I have. That's why I'm telling you about it. Okay? These other tiny vertical lines, those are tremors caused by magma hitting that rock inside the volcano and fracturing the rock. Okay? Now, I wanted to take you down to this one. This earthquake that you see here this afternoon. Okay? This is also important. Okay? Look over on the left-hand side of it. This started happening at 3 p.m. That line is unidentified, but if you look below it, it says 15:15. That's 3:15. So this line we're looking at is 3 o'clock this afternoon. We go over here to where this tremor starts, and it's about 3:01, almost 3:02 p.m. Okay? Then it starts in tremors. Then it builds up and we see our first earthquake, at least at 2.3. At least at 2.3. Like I said, it will multiply that times 3, and all of a sudden you have a good sized earthquake. As we move across to the right, it dissipates into tremors again, then it builds up again. And we see nearly a 2.0, probably a 1.7, 1.8 tremor. Then we continue to see tremors here. These are 1.5, 1.6 tremors. Then we come to another longer vertical line. This, if we accept it as it is a 2.5 magnitude earthquake, a minor 2.5 earthquake. Multiply it times 3, then we have nearly a 4.8, 4.9 earthquake. Moderate earthquake. That's a strong earthquake here at Mount Rainier. That's a strong earthquake at Mount Rainier. Do you understand where we're coming from now? People ought to be concerned about what is going on at these volcanoes. You folks that live in Seattle, if you have felt your ground moving, there's a reason for it. If you felt your ground moving anywhere north, south, east, or west of Mount St. Helens, this is why. All that magma inside the volcano is causing these earthquakes. You can see the earthquakes and tremors happening here. Again, if we see a vertical line with a dot in it, it's an earthquake. If it doesn't have a dot in it, that is steam being released from the volcano. I don't have a current picture from a distance at Mount Rainier today, but if I did, it would probably show clouds directly over Mount Rainier. Those are steam plumes. Steam plumes coming from the volcano. I've shown you those in the past. Okay? It's happening. Mount Rainier is steaming. It's steaming great guns. And those people that live around it know it. They see it every day. They know Mount Rainier is going to erupt. It's a matter of when. Nobody knows. That's why we study these seismograms, so we at least have a good idea of what is going on here. Okay? But this isn't the only seismogram we look at. I'm going to show you one more seismogram, and I'm also going to show you a spectrogram. A spectrogram from Mount Rainier. This one is coming from the Emerald Ridge seismograph. The Emerald Ridge seismogram is trash. USGS has it so doctored, there's nothing to show you. It's trash. But the spectrogram is real. Down at the bottom, you see these lighter yellowish blue vertical lines raising up. That is melt. That is magma that's raising up. That is heat. That is heat from the magma raising up. Now you see little thin lines here going up towards the top of this spectrogram. That is heat reaching the surface. Mount Rainier is warm. The ground is warm around Mount Rainier. There's no doubt in my mind. I have seen it. I have seen snow and ice sliding off of Mount Rainier. A couple of years ago when we were here we showed you a video of snow, dirt, debris, ice falling from the top of Mount Rainier and going all the way to the bottom. I told you this once before, maybe earlier this week. We showed you the video, and maybe I ought to go back and try to find that. We showed you a video of this happening. Dirt, rock, debris, trees, branches falling down the volcano, falling the entire distance of the volcano to the bottom. It caused a lahar. All that melted snow, the ice and everything rushing through the creeks around Mount Rainier, causing a lahar. It caused damage to the roadways. USGS for several days denied it happening. We showed you the video and they denied it happening. Yet, several days later, we had the United States Park Service reporting it, that they had had damage from a lahar that came down the mountain. Finally, we had vindication of what we saw, even though the agencies prior to that denied it. Before President Trump left office, he visited Mount Rainier. They have put up sirens, lahar sirens, to warn people in the park when a lahar happens, so they can get the heck out of Dodge before it hurts them. Hopefully those lahar sirens will work. And it's not just around Mount Rainier. I understand they have set up lahar sirens over in Seattle and other places, Snohomish and such, to give people warning when it happens again. So in case it erupts, they'll know what is going on. And yes, it will erupt. It's not if, but when. It's going to erupt, I promise you that. All right, let's move on. I'm going to show you one more seismogram. We're going to move on. Okay? The seismogram I'm going to show you comes from the southeast part of the volcano. It's further south, probably about 30 miles south of the volcano. It's called Para. It's the precipitation tower, the Paradise Precipitation Tower at Mount Rainier. Okay? This is what it's showing up at the top of it. Okay? Again, what we're showing you is messed with by the agency. Messed with by the agency. You see up at the top, these lines are very thin. They're very thin. The other seismogram I showed you from Camp Sherman, you saw thicker lines, didn't you? Guess what? This seismograph has been turned way, way down. I'm going to say maybe down to 10% of real world. Okay? See that earthquake that happened here? Okay? Just after 1 o'clock this morning? That's about 1:10 this morning. Okay? It shows it to be just tremors. Tremors. If this seismogram is turned so far down like I'm saying, and I believe it is, that, folks, was probably a 2.5, 3.0 earthquake. And look how long it lasted. Okay? We're talking from the first primary waves on the left to the tremors, which are the secondary waves to the right. It lasted 2 minutes. A 1.4, 1.5 tremor is not going to last 2 minutes and send out secondary waves like this. This was at least, and I'm saying at least, a 2.5 minor earthquake. A 2.5 minor earthquake. Then, after the secondary wave ends, what else is there? Off to the right, after the secondary moves, then we have a body wave. A body wave. And this body wave lasted another 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we go off to the left here, because the bottom line here below that is also part of it, 5, 6 minutes later. 6-minute body wave. I believe this earthquake was really at least a 3.0, 3.5 quake. Okay? Just looking at this earthquake alone. This seismic activity by itself. They think that they are deceiving, or they think that They're just right in giving us this information. If anybody is really looking at this, they can figure out this information by themselves. You don't have a body wave of 6 minutes after a 1.5 tremor. It does not happen. It does not happen. This was a much larger earthquake. Okay? Now, we move this down. You don't see any seismic activity at all. Look at this. You see just a blip here and there. They've turned this seismograph almost off, which proves that the earthquake earlier this morning was stronger than that, because it just barely made it through the turndown. Just barely made it through the turndown. Look down here. As the day goes through, we don't see any real seismic information until after 4:30 this afternoon. Just barely any movement before 2:30 this afternoon. 2:30 this afternoon. That is 14:30 on the line down here. You see blips and stuff, but that's all. The seismograph was turned so far down that nothing was happening. Nothing was showing. Then all of a sudden, they decide to turn it back up. Look at this blue area here. It almost decimated the white paper. Almost no white at all behind this. This is magma coming into the magma chamber of Mount Rainier. Magma coming into the magma chamber at Mount Rainier. You see spikes up at the top out of this blue coloring. The spikes are earthquakes happening. The red lines you see on this seismogram, that is computer generated to get the attention of seismologists. That's all that is. Excuse me. This is serious, guys. This is serious. Mount Rainier is building up. Mount Rainier is building up to an eruption. With this kind of magma, if this was shown on the rest of the seismogram, and it has in the past, great parts of these seismograms were all filled with color. But they've turned them down, so it doesn't show this. This was serious activity this afternoon at Mount Rainier. Serious activity at Mount Rainier, and you can see it through the rest of the afternoon, evening. Okay? Those times are incredible. That information is incredible. Let's move down to Mount St. Helens. I'm only going to show you a few more seismograms because it's getting late here. It's already 9:30, and I understand I started late tonight, but I'm going to show you as much as I possibly can. Okay, I don't want to lose people before it gets too late for people to be up. I want to make sure I get the best information out to all of you. But this is serious, guys. This is serious. This is serious as a heart attack is. Let's go over to Mount St. Helens. Trade Dollar Lake, which is just as high as Mount St. Helens is, but it's further north. Trade Dollar Lake. Oh, darn it. Trade Dollar Lake, guys. Look at this. Look at this earthquake here. This happened after that earthquake at Mount Rainier. Okay? This is Mount St. Helens. Guess what? This seismograph has been turned way down too. You can see it. Almost no shaking at all going on. They've turned it way down. How do we know? We have a really thin magma churn signal here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines high. That means this seismograph has been turned down to about 26% of real world. So if we want to look at this earthquake here, if we want to really look at this earthquake, it happened after 2 a.m. this morning. No, it didn't either. I'm sorry. It happened just after 1 a.m. this morning. This is about 1:54 a.m. this morning. Okay? What do we have here? If we just look at this here, it's just maybe about 2.0, 2.1 magnitude earthquake, minor earthquake. And there were several of them. There's several P waves here. It's not just one. There's like five separate P waves, primary waves, separated after the third one with some tremors. Let's multiply this times 3. Let's multiply times 3. Now we're looking at least a 3.5, 3.7 magnitude earthquake. While that only is a small quake, it is still significant. Okay? It's very significant. Now let's look at this in all reality. After the major part of the quake finishes, we have a secondary wave. That secondary wave goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 minutes. The body wave goes 18 minutes. This could not have ever been a 2.2, 2.3 earthquake. This had to have been at least a 3.5 earthquake, if not larger. You don't get 18-minute body waves after a 2.0 earthquake. You just don't. It's not possible. It is possible with at least a 3.5, 3.8 magnitude earthquake. The body waves do continue before they completely dissipate, and that's what happened here. We see that magma churn signal. Those vertical lines after that are steam lines. We have the magma churn signal, and up to the right we have steam coming from the volcano. You see other vertical lines here that do not have a dot in the middle of them. The ones without a dot in them are steam coming from the volcano. Now let's look here. Just like the one previous, okay, over at Mount Rainier, Para, the precipitation tower at Mount Rainier, just south and east of Mount Rainier. We have to look at this, okay? The color here is caused by continuous magma, large amounts of magma coming into the volcano. But usually when we see this happen, we see something that's preceding it. Okay, there's nothing preceding this, these dark full lines here, not a thing. Okay, which leads me to believe that this area here that's colored in is not real. It might be, but there is usually a line, and it starts out thin and gets thicker as the amount of magma comes into the magma chamber. Then it gets thicker and thicker, which completely obliterates the white beneath it. We don't see this on this line. All we see is a fairly thin line, not completely dead thin, but it does show some magma, but not enough to generate this kind of product here. Unless They turned the seismograph down sufficiently, then they knew the earthquake was happening and they turned it up. They felt the ground shaking beneath their feet, and then they turned the seismograph back up to generate this. You see the vertical lines coming from the full color. Normally that would mean a lot of magma coming into the magma chamber. And the vertical lines, those are earthquakes caused by the magma shattering the rock inside the volcano. We know for a fact this is happening at Mount St. Helens. We know for a fact it's happening. Okay, how is that? Let me show you another seismograph or seismogram at Mount Rainier. Not Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens. Okay, I'm going to show you this from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. Okay, this will substantiate what we see on this other seismogram. Look at this. Okay, look at this. This is September lobe at Mount St. Helens. Remember what we saw over at Mount Baker, over at Shuxon? We saw the seismogram there. Okay, that showed the magma waves, the vertical, not vertical, the very low frequency waves here. See that? See this? You see the curvy lines here increase. Before that, the seismograph is basically turned down, almost off. You just barely see the straight lines. There's no swerving, there's no curling, there's no tremors or anything showing. Just straight lines, nothing else. Then all of a sudden they start turning up the seismograph, turning up the machine recording this information. That's what you're seeing here. You see the VLF waves coming in here, just barely moving. Then they turn it up. Then they turn it up. Look what we see here this afternoon. Major amount of magma movement. At the same time, we're seeing the earthquake movement on the other seismograph. Okay? Seismograph is recording, the seismogram is recording the information. Okay? Basically, the same time the increase in seismic activity is recorded on the other seismogram, it's being recorded here in a different form, showing the VLF waves caused by the magma coming into the volcano. And we can see the heaviness of the magma. The increase in the VLF waves shows an increase in the amount of magma and the amount of movement in the magma. Okay, so this proves the theory that they have turned these seismographs down, where it's just barely recording information, and then all of a sudden they turn it back up because they feel the movement. They want to see what's going on. Even though they may not report it on the map, they know exactly what's going on here. That's Mount St. Helens. Let's drop down to Mount Hood real quick. Okay, I want to show you something going on at Mount Hood. Okay, the first thing I'm going to show you is over on the north side of Mount Hood. This is Barrett Spur. This is Barrett Spur. Remember me telling you about the Kermadec quake? It should show up on all of the seismograms. We showed you seismograms that weren't showing it. That's because they had the darn machine turned all but off. Look at this. Look at this, guys. This is the USGS seismogram. Okay? What are we seeing here? We're seeing magma movement early this morning. This is at Mount Hood. Mount Hood. This seismograph has been turned way down as well. Way, way down. I'm talking probably 25% down. Okay? Because we hardly see any of these horizontal lines at all. The thicker the horizontal lines, the more magma that's coming into the magma chamber. The thinner, the magma calms down. There's not as much. But you see these lines so thin. That means the seismograph has been turned almost off. But when you see this happen, okay, this is this afternoon. This is after, actually it starts happening at about 15, which is 3. Actually, this one's happening at about 4, I want to say 4:50 p.m. this afternoon. Okay? This magma here at Mount Hood is making it through the electronic turndown. It's forcing the seismograph to show the event, the incident. That's what's showing here. And it starts about 2:50 this afternoon. Okay, we can go over and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over on the far left, this would be 2:45 p.m. We count 5 lines over, that's 2:50. Okay? So we know we have an earthquake on this dark blue line. We know it. It's showing at least a 2.5, 2.2, 2.3. Again, this seismograph has been turned down to about 26% of real world. Let's multiply this times 3. Then we really know what kind of earthquakes are happening. Okay? Then again, the earthquakes calm down. We have P waves. Okay? We're seeing red lines here that are computer generated on the dark blue line. On the dark blue information. The event. The red line's computer generated to notify the seismologist, hey, you need to look at this. Then we have the secondary waves. Okay? The secondary waves go out about 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, we have a body wave. Okay? You see the body wave going out 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes, maybe 5 tops. Okay? Again, the machine is turned way, way down. Maybe 5 minutes of body wave. So this would probably be at least a 3.4, 3.5 quake. If it was turned down 26%, multiply it times 3, we have now a 4.5 quake, or 3.5 quake. Okay? Then, after that dissipates and goes away, then we have a bunch of tremors building again. This time on the light blue line. That's 3 p.m. over on the left-hand side. So we go over 2 minutes. That's when the tremors start. Again, the powerful magma is causing the seismograph to report what they don't want to report. Because the seismologist has turned the machine way, way down. But the event is making it through the turn down here. On the light blue line, it shows tremors. 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes of tremors. Then we see the red lines on the light blue event. Okay? What do we see? Maybe 2.0 earthquake? It could have been. But I'm telling you, it's probably closer to a 3.5. Maybe a 3.5 earthquake here at Barrett Spur. This is just barely north of Mount Hood. Barrett Spur may itself be a volcano. One of our viewers and her husband went over to Barrett Spur. What they recorded was amazing. They sent pictures to me. Okay? There is dacite or dacite lava there. Okay? There's lava there. How could there be lava if there was not a volcano? Yes, Mount Hood could have erupted there, but all the scientific evidence points to Barrett's Spur being a volcano unto itself. We don't see a cone over there. We see a lot of lava all over the ground, literally, but it could have been worn down by water. It could have been worn down by water and glaciation, glaciers, hundreds of years ago. We know for a fact that glaciers were here. They may have worn all that lava down to where it's nearly flat today. That could have happened. Barrett's Spur may be a volcano into and of itself. Okay? But after this event, there's very little of anything happening. It looks like a few tremors at best, and that's all. So we know for a fact that the seismologist turned this seismograph so far down that all we see of that event is when the event was pushing through the turndown. It's amazing how that happens. Let's go take a look at Palmer Lift. I love going over here and looking at this. This is amazing to me. Okay? This is amazing to me. Now this is just a little bit different here. Let's enlarge this so we can take a look at it. Again, the seismograph is turned way, way down. We do not see any magma churn signal. Okay? But we've seen the other seismograph, haven't we? So we know it was turned down too. Now, we see all these thin lines here. Totally thin, showing just maybe very little of magma going through the magma chamber. Each line here represents 15 minutes of time, just as the other seismographs we've shown you tonight. 15 minutes of time each. Okay? So all we see for hours here, hours literally, is just barely any movement at all of the magma. Then we come to about 3:30 this morning. See the line where it says 3:15 on the left hand side? The next line is 3:30. Then we go over here to the right. Okay? We start to see more thicker magma lines here. Okay? So we know that tremors are building up, don't we? Tremors are building up. We see some tremor buildup here. This would be about 3:40 p.m. or not p.m. 3:40 a.m. this morning. We see some tremor buildup. Then all of a sudden the tremor gets larger, doesn't it? Here it shows maybe a 1.7, 1.8 tremor. But we know this seismograph has been turned way down, don't we? We multiply this times 3. So this may have been a 3.0 earthquake on Mount Hood. We see a couple P waves here, don't we? Oh yeah, at least 2 P waves, maybe 3, if we look really closely. Okay? Then we have a decrease in magma, a decrease in tremors as the earthquake decreases. Then it builds up again. Look at this thick line here. This is magma after that earthquake. You see magma building up to that earthquake here, magma causing that earthquake. Then that earthquake dissipates and we see magma again here. It increases in size. You see that little triangle going off to the left before the increase in magma here? That's what it should look like when we have these thicker lines. The magma's thinner, it gets thicker. And we see that throughout the rest of this line, and then over on the 3:45 line. You still see thicker magma, don't you? Then it dissipates, and then all of a sudden we see an increase in seismic activity. The magma is fracturing rock inside the volcano, causing the earth to move here. We see some more P waves. It appears that this might be a 1.7 tremor again, but it's not. This seismograph has been turned way down. Multiply that times 3, and we have at least a 3.0 earthquake. And we see the seismic activity decrease. It takes almost 2 minutes for it to decrease into a body wave. Then that body wave goes another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 minutes. This had to have been at least a 3.5 magnitude earthquake. That's how you work these seismograms. It's measurement, it's length of time. You can see the magma infill here. Okay? The magma infill starting at 6 a.m. this morning. The thinner lines turning into thicker lines, going thinner again and getting thicker again. Each line represents 15 minutes. You see the magma infill coming into the magma chamber. This is proven. You can see it here. The computer is allowing us to see this on the seismogram. So they turned it up. They turned the seismograph up to allow us to see this. Okay? Look what we're seeing here. Over at 7:45 on the dark blue line on the left. Okay? That's a lot of magma coming into the magma chamber. This would be here maybe a point, I want to say maybe a 1.4 tremor. Multiply that times 3. Now we're talking about a 2.5 earthquake. Isn't that interesting? Look at the magma lines here. The magma infill here. The thinner lines getting thicker and getting thinner again. Okay? Look down here before they turn it off. Okay? This over here on the dark blue line here. Okay, we're showing this to be about 11:30 this morning. 11:30 this morning. What happens just before that? At about 11:25. We see a magma increase, don't we? Over here on the right. A magma increase and tremors increasing as well. We see some P waves. This is at least a 2.0 earthquake. This thicker blue line here, over on the right, that's at least a 2.0, but we know it's been turned down. So this is probably a 3.5, 4.0 earthquake. This is Mount Hood. Look at all this magma coming in here. We see the magma increase here before that earthquake, and then the magma decreases again and increases again. We see earthquakes hitting here after 11:30 on the left-hand side. We see earthquakes, they appear to be minor earthquakes, 1 or 2.0 and such, but we know they were larger quakes caused by the magma. The magma increase here continued for about 6 minutes, maybe 7 minutes. Then it starts dissipating. It made quite a dissipation of a body wave of maybe 3 minutes. Then it decreased to almost nothing. It decreased to almost nothing until 12:15 today. Then we had a definite increase there at 12:15. As we move over to the right, look at the amount of magma coming into the magma chamber again. Almost completely obliterating white color here on the right-hand side. An increase of magma causing earthquakes. You see the vertical lines going out of this large magma clump here. Those are earthquakes. We see it all throughout this line here. Then, guess what they do? They turn off. They turn off the seismograph. Look at that. Nothing more the rest of the day. They turn off the Palmer Lift seismograph. Isn't that just peachy of them? Thinking that, oh, nobody needs to see what's going on. You saw what's happened here. What happened here the rest of the day? This magma continued to happen, didn't it? I will almost bet on it. I will almost bet on it. Okay? Let's move down here. Okay? I want to take a look at Mount Hood timberline. Okay? Let's look at this. This also tells a story. This seismograph here recording here at timberline, seismograph has been turned way down. It's just barely showing any magma movement at all. Okay? Probably less than 25% of real world. You do see some thicker lines here. They did turn up the seismograph a little bit, but that's all they did. That's barely all they did. Over here on this dark blue line here, this is 1045 on the left-hand side. So over here, this would be at least 1050. Will actually be more than that. It'd be like 10:49 a.m. this morning. With all that magma there, the amount of magma is increasing there. And then you see another what appears to be a tremor. A 1.6, 1.7 tremor. Multiply that times 3, and now we have at least a 2.5, 2.9 minor earthquake. Not a tremor, but an earthquake. Okay? They've turned this thing way, way down. It might have been even stronger than that. Okay? Probably a 3.0. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But look how they turned the seismograph down. This is not a reflection of magma coming into this magma chamber, because we've seen the magma coming into the magma chamber on these other seismographs. Okay, we've seen it on the seismograms. So they turn the thing down and then turn it up slightly, showing the increase in magma, showing the tremors that are really earthquakes. That's what's happening here. And I'm going to tell you it's happening at Sisters. Let me show you Sisters real quick. That's further south. Okay, right here. Look at that. They're doing the same thing here. Up at the top, you can see the Kermadec Island quake. These other seismographs, they have doused it because they turned the seismograph off, basically. They've just barely had it on to do anything. Okay? This proves what they're doing. They don't allow anything to show. Heaven forbid we know the truth of what's happening at these volcanoes. 2 years ago, Mount Hood had 125 earthquakes in 24 hours. Most of them showing on the Timberline seismogram. USGS issued a volcanic eruption advisory at Mount Hood. Fortunately, over the next 2 days, the earthquakes simmered down and quieted down. But if they had continued, Mount Hood would have erupted way before now. It still hasn't. We know it hasn't. This at Sisters shows a lot of magma coming into this magma chamber to show what is going on here. Okay? If the seismograph had been turned up, we would see indeed a lot more activity. We would see not just tremors but earthquakes happening here at Sisters. And I can say that for Mount Crater Lake volcano. I can see say that at Shasta and Mount Lassen. Well, guess what? Today, okay, at Mount Shasta and Lassen, they have 10. They have 10 seismographs recording information at those volcanoes here in Northern California. Guess what? Mount Shasta has one seismogram today, and it hardly shows anything. Mount Lassen has 0. There are no seismograms today that show anything at Mount Lassen. They're all dead. They're all dead. One seismogram shows garbage, trash. Trash. That's it. That's it. Out of 10 seismographs that cost probably $1 million a piece. Sorry. Seismographs probably cost $1 million a piece or close to it. And they are turned off. Why? Why are they turned off? Because they don't want us to know what's going on. That's why. That's exactly what's going on, guys. I can prove it. I've proven it to you tonight. Okay? I've proven it to you tonight. We know exactly what's going on. They don't want us to know what is happening. Okay? Now, I want to show you something in closing tonight. Okay? I found this in browsing through my messenger groups. Someone posted this on a messenger group. I think it was Camber. I haven't seen Camber in our chat. I would hope that she would be here. I hope all of you are here for a reason, to learn. Again, this is Cascadia night. I've gone through a lot of information tonight. I think it's pertinent. We need to save our lives and the lives of our family. That's why I've gone to great lengths tonight to talk to you about what is going on around us. I talked about the storms here in North Carolina in the 90s for a reason. Because we're seeing them hit the west coast of the United States and proceed east. Great storms causing a lot of damage. Dams are near overflowing where before we were in a drought. We're not in any drought anymore. The Democrat communists want us to believe that we're in a drought, that there is climate change going on, that the ice in the north is melting. It's not. It's not. The ice down south is not melting. It's shaking, but it's not melting. We've had earthquakes down there on the southern Antarctic ridge. It's not melting, it's shaking. Anyway, guys, we're going to get out of here. Okay? We've been here over 2 hours. I didn't want to go this long. I want to leave this last word with you. Okay? This is coming from the Old Testament in Psalms chapter 4, verse 8. I will lie down and sleep in peace. For you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety. This is King David speaking, one of the Lord's prophets. I will lie down and sleep in peace. For you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety. That is my same prayer for each one of us tonight. Let us dwell in safety. Let us dwell in peace. We have a lot of things going on in our world. Things are starting to get really bad, really quick. I don't believe we're in the tribulation yet. If we are, it's the beginning. Things are going to get a lot worse. Let us lie down in peace. Let us lie down in safety. May God bless us to lift us up. May God give us the rest to do what we have to do. May God be with us. May His Spirit bless us. May the Holy Ghost guide us and direct us. That's my prayer for each one of us. Now, before we leave, please make sure you give us a thumbs up. We have 84 thumbs up here. I think we can have a lot more than that. Upwards of over 100 at least. Okay? Last night we had over 475 people watching our program. USGS down here on the outside said we barely had 314. They're suppressing the data. They're suppressing us because they don't want this message getting out to everybody. Folks, we need to make sure we tell everybody about this program. It's not for me, guys. It's not for me. If it were for me, I wouldn't do it. I do this for all of you and your families, your friends, the people you work with and the people you associate with on social media. I do this for everybody. Please, folks, share this message with everybody you meet, everybody you talk to, your extended family included. Now, folks, in closing, God be with you this day and always. May God bless and direct you. May God be with you until we meet again. That's my prayer. And I say it even in the sacred name of our Savior and Lord, Jesus Christ. Amen. Have a great night, and we will see you tomorrow evening with Preparedness Friday. Good night, everybody. I love you. You're the best. Oh, don't tell me that. There we go.